Case prices have been going crazy lately, and it shows no sign of slowing down. The way the system is structured right now, there are just too few cases for the enormous amounts being opened every month. Right now we are also in a capsule sale for Antwerp, taking a significant amount of the gambling demand away from cases. There are rare cases still being opened millions of times every month, and that can't go on forever. Okay, let's start with the basics. Currently the system works like this. Every week you can get a skin or a spray as a drop, and you can get a case drop. The skin or spray is dropped when you level up, and the case is dropped randomly after playing a game. This means per player you can get one case max per week, but you do have to play for quite a bit of time before getting the case dropped. This means in the current situation there are just too many players playing the game, and therefore opening cases and too few being dropped. Since most of the cases are already in the rare drop pool, and that pool only drops roughly 1 or 2% of the time. That means the cases that are still in the prime drop pool will be supplied enough to meet and even sometimes overpower the unboxing demand for them. That means those cases can be pretty damn cheap and affordable. But this also means all the other cases will have too little supply. Since about 1 to 2% of the actual drops are the rare ones, this means the rare drops are way too rare for the opening numbers. We're currently seeing a bit of a weird situation with the Dreams and Nightmares case. In the past, when a new case was dropped, it would start out at a high price like $5 for a week, and then within a few weeks drop down to 5 to 20 cents. But this time around it has stayed above 50 cents for over like 5 months. The cause for this is that the case finally has enough opening demand, kind of, to keep up with the drop rate. This is probably due to the great knife finishes in the game, and the alternative case is the Riptide case. That is way more expensive than the Dreams and Nightmares case is. It is slowly depreciating in price, but way slower than usual. This means the drop rate can't be much higher than the current opening rate, which means in the last 30 days there were 2.1 million Dreams and Nightmares cases opened, according to the case opening numbers by Fiedik. Since there are 5 actively dropped cases, this means the drop rate for cases per month should be currently 2.1 million times 5, plus the around 1% for the rare cases. Even if the newest case is dropped less than the rest, and therefore the rest are dropped more than the Dreams and Nightmares case, which would add more cases, this still means the total case drop rate is likely close to the total opening demand, thus meaning the supply for all cases is going down. If this trend continues, it could mean a shortage of cases. This effect only gets worse with the rare cases, seeing as only 1% of all dropped cases are rare, and there are a lot of different ones. If we assume that in a month double the opened cases are dropped, which would be impossible seeing the price trend of the Dreams and Nightmares case, but okay, that would mean 44 million dropped cases in 1 month. That means 1% of 44 million equals 440k total rare cases dropped. Even if all of those cases were, for example, the Spectrum 2 case, it would mean we would lose 1.2 million minus 0.44 million cases equals 0.76 million cases a month just from the Spectrum 2 case. And there are more cases, so this 440,000 max, even if it was 2%, it would be 880k. It would be split over currently 26 cases, or a bit less than 17 to 38,000 per month per case. Valve do probably spread the cases unfairly though, to keep the old and expensive cases old and expensive, but even this way over guess of 17 to 38k can show us that almost any case that is rare gets more unboxing right now than it gets dropped. If Valve keep the system forever, this means that there will be only more rare cases added, and this means that they have to spread the amount of rare cases that get dropped, which is already a fairly limited amount, over even more cases, meaning every single case gets less drops overall. It also means that even prime cases will start being expensive, like the Dreams and Nightmares case, because there's more opening demand and not more cases being dropped every month. Since the keys cost $2.50 anyway, so $1 more or less won't be drastic to the opening cost. This also means that the rare cases will go way higher than they are now, even cases with millions of supply left, since these cases are also still opened like 500,000 times a month, or even more. For example, we have the Chroma 3, Gamma 2 and Spectrum 2, all opened around 1,000,000 times a month currently, according to the numbers of Fiedik, and that is at the higher price point they are already at, in the 40 to 60 cents range. If that rate continues, we will run out of the past supply within a year or maybe 2 years, and that's an overestimation, it could be way sooner, and we will instead have to rely on rare drops. That means a drastic price increase, since those cases contain some of the most well-liked and popular knife skins ever, like the Bayonet Lore from the Gamma case, the Butterfly Tiger Tooth from the Spectrum case, or a Karambit Doppler from the Chroma case, and a lot more more different knives. And people won't just stop liking those. The only way Valve could ruin that is by releasing a new case with the same old knives, but at this point that would be kind of weird for them to do, because new knives usually give more hype and people would be like, oh, it's the old ones, well, we don't need to open that, so it would result in less opening demand. But it could happen, Valve could do this, so watch out for that. These cases aren't the only ones. Some other cases to look out for are the Danger Zone, Revolver, and some of the older versions of the Gamma, Chroma and Spectrum, since they contain the same knives and thus are also quite popular still. The Revolver case, for example, is quite cheap still, under 20 cents. The knives in this case are the OG knives, with the possibility to get a knife that is worth $1 million. The Karambit case hardened blue gem. It is being opened over 500,000 times a month, so even if there's millions of supply left, it won't last that long. The supply of getting dropped more won't increase the supply enough to keep it up either, so a great option. Another great option is the Danger Zone case. It is even cheaper, at 5 cents on buff. The supply is still relatively high due to the recent transition to rare. This will mean over the coming months it will rapidly decrease in supply, since it's being opened 1 million times per month as of right now. I do have to mention the insanely high supply right now, but this case is more sort of in here so that any budget can have a case, and this is so ridiculously cheap that it's possible for anyone. Don't expect this case to go to €1 next year, but doubling in price from 5 to 10 cents or from 5 to 12 cents, in my personal opinion, is totally doable. Then we also have some other cases that are fully discontinued, like the Operation cases from Riptide, Broken Fang and Shattered Web. These cases contain some great skins, like the M4A1S Print Stream or the ALP Containment Breach. For the Riptide case, I don't really see a great skin unless you really like the AK Lead Museo, but never mind. The only compelling thing about the Riptide case is the knives, but those knives are shared with the Dreams and Nightmares case, and that will be dropping actively for years to come, making it a cheaper option for opening the knives. This is why I personally prefer the Shattered Web and Broken Fang cases over the Riptide case, but you can beg to differ. The other cases have skins that will always be in high demand, because they look great, and people just love them. The real question isn't if they will perform over the next couple of years, but the question is if they will be worse or better than some of the other options, like the cheaper cases we already talked about, as their starting price right now is quite a bit higher than those options we already have discussed. I think they are very good options, but as a nice diversification for your already quite diverse repertoire you should build up. And then there's one other pair of cases I haven't mentioned yet, and they are, maybe apart from the Broken Fang case, the most talked about in the entire game. Can you guess which? Okay, that's boring, I'll just say it. Let's talk about the Breakout case and the Glove case. They have been popular as investments for years now and have been slowly going up in price, leveling off for a bit, receiving a boost from more investing demand or from a hype, and leveling off again. This has been going on for a while, and although I don't doubt that it will keep going up, now that we are at a price of currently $3.14 and $2.71 respectively on Steam, we are talking about cases that are more expensive than the key to open them, which is a weird thing for CSGO cases. We haven't seen that before. There are more expensive cases of course, but not any that are opened this many times a month still. I do wonder what the situation will be like if we were to double it in price again. Case worth over $6.20 won't still be opened around 300,000 times a month, right? Right? Man, I don't know. In my personal opinion, it should be easier for a case that is 10 to 50 cents to double in price than a case worth $3. But then again, people love these cases and will continue to love the butterfly knife and the OG gloves. So don't underestimate these cases. The CSGO market has gone to places it has never been countless of times. It has broken its own record again and again and again. So these cases going to $6 or $10 or $100, I would say no, but the market will eventually say sure, let's do it. I mean, take the Kettle 14 stickers as an example. People thought, they're nice. Back then they were expensive for that time. Like a Hollow Titan, like a blue box that slightly shimmers for €2. €2, that's a lot of money back in 2014. You could have bought a hot dog, you know, and people were like, well, why should I spend so much money, €2, on an item that's just virtual that I can't use? And because people didn't think it would happen, people would never have guessed it would be worth like 50,000, 60,000 euros, like cash. But it is, nowadays it is. So me imagining that this case can't double in price, I mean, obviously it can, it could. We're just gonna have to wait and see. They are the safest and most reliable cases in here, and people even use them to track how well the entire market is doing. I mean, that should kind of say it all. There are a lot of other cases, but most are in my opinion just worse versions of cases already mentioned in this video, either because they are more expensive or because they are less well liked by the community. For example, the Hydra case is another operation case, but it's more expensive and it's more rare and it's getting opened up less, so it doubling in price in my opinion is less likely than, for example, the Broken Fang case doubling in price, or maybe a Revolver case or something like that. There are also the esports cases, but I'm a bit less sure on those. I mean, they are fully discontinued and they're really rare, but there isn't really high demand for them. I do think the esports 2013 winter case has quite a strong reasoning behind it, because the case contains trade-up fillers, which will always be useful in the future everywhere. But does that really make the case really expensive in the future? I don't know. I think some cheaper cases are better for the most general audience like you guys. Now, what could Valve do to cash in and prevent this from happening? Otherwise, what could they do to ruin the investments we would make? Since more expensive cases mean less getting opened and thus less profit for them, well, there are a few options, and they could do multiple of these. The first is to just drop more cases, which will mean cheaper case prices and thus more case opening, and also more supply of the future cases to become rare. But this would only kind of fix the issue of the rare cases, but it would keep Valve's money-making machine more intact. For example, instead of 1 case per player, maybe they could make it easier to get a second, or maybe even 3 if you play long and active and a lot of games. The second option, maybe in combination with the first one, is to drop rare cases a bit more often than now, or to add another drop pool with more uncommon cases that aren't rarely dropped yet, but also aren't as common as the active drop pool. This would mean a less drastic change for all cases going into rare, and it would give cases a longer lifespan for Valve. We used to have this pool in the past, but Valve removed this when they reintroduced you having to pay $12.50 for the game in order to get drops. But they didn't even think about getting it back anyway for the Prime people, to mix in with the common drops and the insanely rare drops that you never get, like a middle ground. This option alone wouldn't bring them much extra revenue, so the first option is more likely. They do have to be careful though. If they make the old and reliable investing cases relatively common again, thus making people less trusting in the market and thus investing less money, which also makes Valve less money in the long term, they could severely damage people's feeling and people's trust in the market. Maybe it is smart to let cases become expensive eventually so people will buy more of them in the future and create more hype for the game in general. So what do you think? I think they will slowly start giving out more cases in general, which would make the common cases a bit cheaper again. They could also keep it this way to make some items more scarce and like new cases or old cases, which will make the market better for investing and thus mean a healthier market with more people opening cases. I think without a change, the rare cases are just a great investment, especially some of the still cheap ones. I don't want to influence you in any way, of course, but I will say that if you don't have any cases in your portfolio, you are overlooking a serious option. If you want to know what will happen with the market during the summer hype, this video might suit you well. That was it for this video. If you're still watching, you're truly awesome. Thank you. Goodbye.